Type. Before you design any parametric object, whether it be in a door or a curtain panel, you need to rationalize or strategize the logic for this behavior. Any object geometry behaves differently. So let us sketch this kind of behavior. Right, so I'm going to zoom a little bit closer and we'll draw a rectangle. I know that now we have an actual object to model, but imagine that you don't have an object and you want to begin sketching your design. And some of you mentioned the other day that you can do this, of course, with the divided surface feature. Okay. لا تجي it's all different techniques يعني. Okay. So this is really the outline of what we should be concerned in modeling. A complete hexagon panel and then 4 quarters of a hexagon on both sides. صح? So this is the tile, okay, or a panel which when it repeats it gives us this impression. Make sense? So this is the composition and configuration of this facade. Like a floor tile or any tiled surfaces, you have a component and that repeats. Like that bag, for example, Haneen's bag. So you see the tile, there is a certain boundary and it repeats. Type. Next, let's draw sketches which represents the secondary elements of structure. Right. So this is the we'll draw a line from here all the way to here. Can you see it in my screen? I'll draw it in a different color. So this green line, when it comes to this hexagon in the middle, the full hexagon, let's call it the small width. Okay. You see this hexagon has width, small width over here, and a very wide width in the middle. Okay. And let's draw another one which represents the long width. Right? Okay, so you can see the blue axis, the 2 blue axis lines represent the big width of the hexagon, and the 2 green represents the small width of the hexagon. And then we have a unique central midpoint. I'll make this as red because it's really the center of all this configuration. Let's make it dashed. Right. So let us start a new curtain panel family. So we need to go to the Revit R icon and select new family. And we want to use curtain wall panel. Right? select curtain wall panel and hit open. So now we are in the curtain wall panel interface, family editor interface. Let us save this panel. Let's call it C panel type A. So here's the family interface for the curtain panel, and as you can see, the basic family comes with these ready-made reference planes. Users usually do not delete these reference planes or do anything to them. They add to it the structure we had talked about over here. So this red line, red dashed line, represents the mid, left and right center plane, and mid, front and back, اللي هو center of this object. And of course this side reference planes, it's a ready-made structure for this empty panel. Then the user will add reference planes. So let us add parameter number 1, which represents the small width between of the hexagon. I'll demonstrate first and you can go ahead. So on the plan, we will add a reference plane. We all know the reference plane. So I'll add the reference plane over here, make sure it's parallel, and then another one over here. Watch me first. And then I will add a dimension between this reference plane, the center, and the other one over here. And then do what? Hit the equality symbol. And then I will add a dimension from here to here and label it with what did we call it? Short width. مش كده؟ And whenever the name of the parameters are 2 words or 3 words, I always keep them connected, no gaps. Sometimes some parameters are used in other parameters. يعني مثلا نقول length equals width by 2. It can be done by formula. We'll do that here. So parameter names, always keep them short, simple, no gaps, no percentage, no at symbols, no string symbols. Okay. And now I will test it by going to the family types. Yes, if I make this 3000, I should not get an error. Okay. Let me add another shorter value, 1500. So you see how it's stretched from the central. So just a matter of repeating the same steps. By adding 2 reference planes. And always remember the equality. From here to the midpoint, mid reference planes, and then drop the dimension in here and hit EQ. And then I'll select this dimension and also label it to be long length. Whenever you add these parameters in the floor plan, they will also be added on the elevation, side elevation. So if I open the left elevation, the interior elevation, they're there. Like watch me here. I'll bring in the family types and test the short width and the long width. Okay, so I'll make it 1000 and then hit apply, and I'll make this 1600. Okay, so everything changed within the plan and the elevations. Yeah, the reference planes moved accordingly. by the way, if I misspell something or I want to change the name of a parameter, I can go to the family types window. Yeah, for example, the short width, I will go to the modify button, and I want to call it short length. That's how it should be. So from here you can change the name of the parameter, you can add a new parameter, that's fine. So now we want to design the parameter which represents depth. If I try to cut a section somewhere over here, okay, let's cut a section over here. Let's imagine what is the plan or the plan outline of this panel. So if I'm right, this hexagon basically looks like this. The middle hexagon, it looks something like that, and it comes like that. مش كده the plan. The plan shape of this hexagon looks like this. يعني لو عملنا قطاع هنا, and in addition there are two sides like that. So really my sketching is not that good, but you can see that the middle panel, the hexagon, has this pointy edge, and then the two one on the sides, هم على الجنب, the little quarters, they're just a rectangle. So now I can say that we need to build additional two reference planes which represent the short depth and the long depth. Okay? يعني لو عملنا the actual reference line over here, the one that came with the template, this one, we need two additional reference planes in front of it which represent short depth and long depth. صح? Okay, we'll go back to the plan, and let me do it first and you do it next. So looking at the reference level or floor plan for this curtain panel, I'm going to drop in a reference plane over here and another one over here. This time we don't need the equality, because we're saying that from this reference plane, only in this direction we will have short width and long width. So I'm going to add one dimension over here, and then another. Notice that I'm picking the strong reference plane, and then I dimension to the other added reference plane. Type this one, we'll call it short depth, and this one we'll call it long depth. Okay, so now let's test or flex this parameter. So the short depth, let's make it 150 and hit apply, and the long depth we'll make it 300. Oh. Long depth, okay, 300. Okay, so you can see that all these distances or parameters are changing. It's always important that you test on this family type window. Maybe you will get an error, and some of the typical errors that students do, you know, they will be working in a hurry or by mistake. So for example, they put the dimension over here and they hit the equality, and then by mistake they hit this lock. that means this distance will remain locked. Right? So if I go here and I change the short length, long length to 1800. Sorry, what is this? Short length. من غير short length, I will get an error. It's telling me I cannot change it because one of the dimensions are locked, unchangeable. Okay, so these are typical errors that you could get if you, by mistake, even if I do this and then I hit lock, it will give you some errors. So go ahead and open the 3D view and tile your view so that you can only see the floor plan and the 3D view side by side. So type WT on your keyboard to window tile. Type. So I'm going to zoom in to this half. Okay, so I'm going to work on creating my first quarter of a panel, which is from here to here. Okay, so we want to do this part. Right. What is the best way to create this geometry? Anybody tell me? This quarter. Extrusion, revolve, what is it? لا هنا احنا we're not inside the massing. We are يعني these are the only 3D modeling tools that you can do inside the but remember, extrusion gives you one depth. ما في ميلان. Alright? So probably we could use the solid blend. The solid blends, notice that this part, this quarter over here, it's a small shape and it blends to a bigger shape. That's why we get this pointy slope. Right? Like a pyramid, it has a wide base and a narrow base at the top. So the solid blend is suitable. Okay, let me do it first here. We know that this panel begins from the long width reference plane to the center. But it also begins from the short width to the center. I'll do it first. So I'm going to click on the blend, and then it's now I'm going to draw so watch me here. I'm going to draw this shape from here to here, to here, to here, and here. This is the base shape. Now I'm going to click here to edit the top shape, and let's draw from here to here. Sorry. From here just to here. Is this right? Like this. Right. So now I've done this shape. Something is not right. Okay, so I always do this. I just create an object, right? And then, especially for this exercise, because imagine the section of the plan of the 3D object in plan is a little bit tricky. Let's work on the bottom shape. هل صحيح؟ No, it's not right. So I'm going to go edit base, كأني عكستها. It should be flipped. So I should do it like this. Okay. كده بدأت تعطينا يعني watch on the middle part over here, the bottom part. This is the cross section which we've drawn over here, half of it. Okay, اللي هو الحتة الشكل ده. طيب now I need to edit the top. Edit the top. Yeah, I think I flipped it. So the top will be from here to here to that longer point and then finish. Okay, now I got this quarter shape panel. It looks right, مش كده؟ مش كده؟ From the bottom it's a very small profile or outline, and from the top it's a bigger one and longer, and then the sweep blend will connect between them. طيب, let me change the long length value to see if this geometry will update based on the new parameters. طيب, long length, let's make it 2000. So it changed with it, صح? طيب, let's change the depth, the short depth. Let's make it 200. See how it changed and moved from here? Again, before it was 100 and now it's 200. Type the long depth, let's make it 400. Type. So basically we made the skeleton, the structure of the panel. Right? Wherever this skeleton, these green reference planes moves and change parametrically, the geometry will stretch accordingly. I think I did a small mistake over here. في gap كده. And that's from the top. Is this right? Oh. يعني where is this gap coming from? Huh? لا. هو actually this little gap is happening لأنه القطاع بتاع البلان جاي على تحت شوية هنا. Okay. Yeah. صح. This reference, this level plan is cut somewhere over here. That's why we see a gap over here. And when I go to edit top, هو actually within this reference plane. Maybe it's better to see it here. طيب, shall we do this again? طيب. So again we created a small new project, and we did this curtain wall. It's a storefront type, just to load our curtain panel family inside it and test it that it's working fine. It changes the parameters accordingly. From the family editor, we load the panel into the project by going into load into project, and I'm going to load it into my test project over here. This message shows up because we have two files open. So I'm going to choose project 1, the testing environment. طبعا nothing happens until I actually select these panels. Stay with me here. And then what? I go to the filter and check the curtain mullions, and I keep selecting only these 6 panels, unpin them, and then switch these glaze panels with my curtain panel A. So I didn't get an error. It came here, but it looks weird. Why? Because it's not tuned. It's not tuned. There are some bits and parts missing. At least it didn't give an error, right? Right. Do that. Right. The thing that we did not do is this middle reference plane, this central one. We didn't add that. So on elevation, pick for example the exterior elevation. You see this panel is not constrained to stay only in half of the height of the full panel. So what we need, all of us go to the exterior elevation and add the reference plane like that, and then I will dimension from here to here and make this what? Equal. Then I will stretch the geometry. Watch me here please. Once you stretch this here, lock it and lock it here. So whatever in your project environment, whatever the height of the panel, if it's a small curtain panel, the curtain system grid, if it's 2 meters by 3 meters or 5 by 3, this quarter of the hexagon will remain where it should be. If it's going to be wider, it will remain here. Right. Go ahead and add this reference plane in the middle and then dimension it so that it's equal. So I'm going to load the project, the family into the project, and I will get this message again. It will ask me to overwrite. We'll say overwrite. I had some little change. Okay, but obviously here I need to modify the parameters. I should change the short length. Let's make it 500. And then the long length, make it 1000. Okay, so now you can see the shape of our panel getting into the full picture. Yes, we go to the edit type and we change the depth, the short depth, let's make it 70, and the long depth نعمل مثلا 120. It will look something like that. أو 180. Okay. 180. لا 180 long وshort 70. It's up to you. What is the next step? Mirror. I'm going to select this first quarter and then use the mirror along an axis. Stay with me here. I'm going to mirror it over here. بعدين هروح على elevation and I'll pick those two panels and then I'm mirroring على elevation. I have to pick this middle reference plane. Maja. Right, what happened? Yes, simple. We can flip it. طبعا هنختار اللي فوق اللي هنا. We'll pick the top and notice how I'm dragging it down to snap over here, and then I will lock it. And then I'll pick the top here, then here mirror. And I drag the geometry and I lock it to this reference plane or this geometry here, this edge, and then lock it. بعد كده هعمل test. Let me change short depth. We'll make it 100. Yeah, it looks like it changed fine. ما في مشاكل مش كده. That's why I always like to keep these 3 views done like this. What about if I change this reference plane and I drag it down, pretending that this is a shorter curtain panel? يعني لو سحبت ال top reference plane down, see what happened? احنا ما عملنا lock للي فوق. So I have to drag it down here and lock it. And yeah, so yeah, this one looks like we also need to lock it here. Right, let's check the whole configuration. I'll change the short length and make it 1000. Yeah, it looks like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing in plan and elevation. Let's do 200. Right. Now we can load it into the project. And open the 3D view. Of course, if I select all these, I actually want to test it. For instance, if I go here and I select all the mullions and I delete them, curtain wall mullions. If I delete the mullions, watch me here, if I delete the mullions, then it will give me this smooth connection.